And joining me now is Andrew Yang, Democratic candidate for president. It's good to have you.
Chris, great to see you. Happy holidays. Thank you for having me on.
Okay, so I want to talk about healthcare. This has been obviously the subject of a lot of debate. You've talked about the debates, you've talked about on the campaign trail, but I'm slightly confused about your position. The first ad that your campaign ran was with your wife and talking about your son, and she says that you would fight for Medicare for all. It's been sort of a part of the platform, along with the Freedom Dividend, which we'll talk about. You recently put out a healthcare, some language on your website where you say you support the spirit of Medicare for all, which leaves me slightly confused about what actually programmatically you would want to see happen.
Well, what Medicare for all means to many Americans is universal health care that's high quality and low or zero cost. And that is exactly what I'm championing. We need to provide health care to all Americans, but I would not get rid of all private insurance plans immediately, because millions of Americans are on those plans, enjoy those plans, in many cases negotiated for those plans in lieu of higher wages. The goal of the government has to be to demonstrate that we can outcompete the private insurance plans and squeeze them out of the market over time.
So is that something along the lines of positions taken by Joe Biden, Pete Buttigieg, and a few others, in which there would be essentially the availability of buying into Medicare for people?
Yes, it is quite similar, but our plan has lower minimal cost for many Americans and then co-pays just so that you have a little bit of skin in the game. So it is similar, but we think that we've improved upon some of the other proposals that are out there.
The other big issue that you've talked about, and I think has been one of the kind of engines of your campaign for a while, I think it was the thing that you were known for, is some version of a universal basic income. You call it a freedom dividend of $1,000 a month. There's a lot of people there's two questions about that. One is sort of confusion about how that interacts with other things the government does, the earned income tax credit or other benefits, for instance, like would those go away and be replaced by that, leaving someone worse off? And second of all, the question of, for people that are in dire poverty or really have problems with low income work, that's not enough money.
So the last thing I would ever do is take something away from Americans or leave someone worse off. The Freedom Dividend is universal and opt-in. And if you decide to opt in, you would be foregoing certain cash and cash-like benefits that do not include health care, do not include housing vouchers. When I talk to Americans around the country, those who are receiving government benefits often are very anxious about losing those benefits. I love the earned income tax credit, but 30% of Americans who are eligible for the earned income tax credit don't actually receive it because they don't understand how to file for it. And there are massive timing of payments issues, because if your car breaks down now and I tell you you're going to get a tax refund next spring, it doesn't help you get to work. So I would never do anything to leave Americans worse off. We have to build a foundation or a floor that elevates us all and starts to move us forward in the 21st century, because we're going through the greatest economic transformation in our country's history right now.
Let's talk about that. You talk about the sort of threat of automation, and I think you connect that in some ways. And there's a lot of people, I think, who have a similar school of thought. Some people have written about UBI in other contexts, that automation is going to take away a lot of people's jobs in the future. It's going to get progressively more ambitious in what jobs are automated. The counter to that, and Paul Krugman wrote this up and other people said it, is that threat has always loomed at every moment of industrial development. And there's something called a lump of labor fallacy, right? The idea that there's like a set number of jobs, and if the robots or the machines or the factory machines take some of them, there's less for everyone else, which has not borne out to be the case. Why do you think it's different this time?
Well, the rate and pace of change and the scope of technology is much, much more extreme this time. It's going to impact many more parts of the economy than past transitions. I'm here in South Carolina, and they lost 90,000 manufacturing jobs. Now a third of their stores and malls are closing, and being a retail clerk is still the most common job in our country. So we have to recognize that, yes, there are going to be many new jobs that get created, but these jobs are going to tend to be for different people with different skills in smaller numbers than the jobs that are being lost in communities around the country.
But isn't that partly just a question of like labor bargaining power and also a little bit of redistribution, right? I mean, like there was no reason that, for instance, making a car was a good middle class job until the UAW unionized and basically made it a good middle class job. It seems like there's lots of jobs that might get created, and the question about how much power workers have over their wages ends up being really the determinative one.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, where unions have been this massive force for better compensation and benefits, but union membership has declined by 50% over the last number of years. And as a result, most Americans are not benefiting from that kind of collective bargaining power. If you put this foundation of $1,000 a month into workers' hands, it actually makes workers much, much harder to exploit and push around. And this plan that I'm championing is not originally my plan. Andy Stern, who used to be the largest labor union leader in the country, proposed this as a response to automation in his 2015 book, Raising the Floor. And so this idea has been with us for a long time. It's just overdue that we actually put it into law.
Okay, final question I want to ask you about your trajectory here and your relationship to the Democratic Party. It seems to me that from the folks that I meet that are supporters of yours and people online, that you're reaching a lot of people who haven't traditionally either been involved in politics or part of the Democratic Party. How do you view your relationship to the Democratic Party? What do you view as your role in the larger sort of ecosystem of the party in whose primary you're running?
Well, thanks for asking, Chris. I've been a registered Democrat for a long time. I served as an honorary ambassador in the Obama administration. To me, the Democratic Party needs to try and dig deeper and figure out how we're going to solve the problems that got Donald Trump elected. But I've been a loyal Democrat for years. I'm just trying to provide new energy and new ideas to the Democratic Party to help us all move forward in the 21st century. I would certainly never do anything that would increase the chances of Donald Trump becoming president again or staying president. And I'm thrilled that I'm bringing independents and libertarians and disaffected Trump voters into the fold. That's how we're going to grow the Democratic Party, and that's how we're going to beat Donald Trump in 2020.
All right, Andrew Yang, who is in South Carolina, where he's campaigning, running for president. Thank you so much for making time tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris. Yang in South Carolina.